Innovators are experimenters. Not in a white lab coat in the lab sort of experimentation, but with the idea that a lab sort of experimenter might have, which is, I have a hypothesis about the world. What if, how might? And they go out and explore the world to figure out, is it true? Now there are three ways in which they explore the world. The first way is they just try out new experiences. So Howard Schultz, many years ago, was working in the coffee industry, selling coffee grinding machines. He's on a trip to Italy in order to go to a conference about coffee and coffee grinding. He skips out of the conference meetings. He goes to different coffee shops. He's totally surprised by the taste, the smell, the experience, the socialness of it. And he ended up staying there 2 weeks, completely immersing himself in the experience of this new stuff of coffee that he had in Italy that he'd never had before anywhere else in the world. Then he goes back and creates what we know now as Starbucks coffee. Now, again, it doesn't have to be somebody famous. It could be somebody like a guy named Nate Alder, who's a snowboarder. He lives in cold weather. He loves to be up in that cold sort of world of snowboarding and mountains. He was on vacation one time in Brazil, and he loves also to scuba dive, but he'd never gone really deep, where you have to have a dry suit that your body's dry. The wet suit, which is really a dry suit, keeps your body warm inside so it's not as cold. In between that dry suit and your skin, they put argon gas. It's heavy gas. It keeps you warm when you're down there in that deep, cold water. Did the dive in Brazil, had a great time, came up, was going on the boat back to the shore. He's thinking about what it was like down there deep under. And he's thinking about what it's like to be on top of a mountain when it's freezing cold. And he realized, what if we took that argon gas that they put in those dry suits underwater and we created the whole clothing line for people like me who love to snowboard? Well, that's what he did. It's called Climate. They make vests, coats, pants, etc. You put this argon gas in. It's really a thin piece of outer clothing. Keeps you super warm, incredibly successful. All that comes from trying something different and having that experience then lead to a new idea. Other innovators, they love to just take things apart. Page, one of the founders of Google, he did this ever since he was a kid. He was in his early teens, even a little bit younger than that. His brother gave him some tools, screwdriver and other things. He ended up then going out in the garage when his parents were gone, lifted off power tools, saws, drills, etc. off the shelves, used his tools to pull those things apart. He just wanted to know, how did they work? And he spread them all over the floor of the garage, never put them back together, but he got his answers, which was, what's going on inside of there and what could I learn from it? That's how some innovators get their ideas, just by taking things apart. The third way that they experiment is essentially by creating prototypes and trying new stuff. The founders of a company called Rent the Runway basically discovered that idea initially by one of their sisters who was thinking of going to a pretty nice party, had a good job, she was making a decent income, but she didn't have enough money in order to buy a high-end designer dress. And then she had the novel idea, what if we rented people really high-end designer clothing? Well, it would be expensive to buy all that clothing and to start the business, so they prototyped, they experimented. Here's the first experiment. They bought a few dresses. They took them to a college campus and let young women try the dresses on, high-end, good quality designer dresses. They tried them on. Will you rent them? Yes, they did. So the first question was, will they rent high-end designer dresses? That was answered. The second question they had to figure out was, will they bring those expensive designer dresses back in good condition and not steal them? They did. They got them back. So first hypothesis was tested. People will rent high-end designer dresses. The second experiment for them was different campus, different set of college students. In this case, they put the designer dresses out. They could touch them, they could see them, but they could not try them on. The question was, will they rent high-end designer dresses if they can't try them on? Fewer people did, but quite a few still rented. And they brought them back in good condition, didn't steal them. Third and final experiment to figure out, is this a business that could work, was don't put the dresses out there, but they took pictures of the dresses and asked people in a different college campus, would you rent this dress? And the answer was yes, about 5% of the time. That's enough in the internet business to make good money. Those 3 experiments led to the company Rent the Runway, which now has had venture capital investment of over $40 million. It's incredibly successful, but it's that spirit and action of experimentation that led them to get great new ideas.